I
At
built this
19,
empire from nothing.
Ethan
and you
fell
will
for the
respect
only
that.
woman
Your
who made his
empire is
father's
crumbling,
empty house
old
feel
man.
alive.
Stephen,
But
please.
she wasn't his to
You're cut
love.
off. Get out!
One confession, one night, and everything collapsed.
I built this
This
empire
isn't just a
from
love
nothing,
story.
and you will respect
This is a
that.
warning
Your
about
empire
loneliness.
is crumbling, old man.
Intro to
Stephen,
Moral
please.
plus Suspend.
You're cut off.
The
Get
first
out!
time Ethan realized loneliness could feel like love was the night the electricity went out. Not the city, just their mansion. The generator failed, and the house became a quiet cave of shadows, lit only by candle flames and phone screens. Outside, rain tapped the windows like impatient fingers. Ethan stood in the hallway holding a candle, hearing the emptiness echo. His father was away again. Richard Vale had been away again for so many years that Ethan no longer asked when he'd return. It had become normal, like breathing. Father leaves, money arrives, silence remains. He walked into the kitchen and froze. Nora Hale sat at the table, her face lit by her phone. A cup of tea steamed beside her. She wore Vivian's old hoodie, too big for her, making her look softer than she normally did. Nora looked up. "You're awake," she said. Ethan swallowed. The power. "It's an excuse," Nora replied calmly. "You were already awake." That hit like a slap. He walked closer, trying to keep his voice steady. "I couldn't sleep." Nora set her phone down. "Because the house is too quiet?" Ethan's eyes narrowed. "How did you know?" Nora leaned back, studying him with an expression that made him feel seen in a way he wasn't used to. "Because quiet houses don't just hold silence," she said. "They hold people's unspoken thoughts." Ethan's candle trembled slightly in his hand. "I don't have unspoken thoughts," he lied. Nora smiled faintly. "Then you're the bravest liar I've met." He gave a short, humorless laugh, then surprised himself by saying the truth. "I hate him sometimes." Nora's face softened. "Ethan, my father," Ethan said, voice sharp now. "He calls us a home, but it's not. It's a waiting room with furniture. Vivian smiles like she's fine, but she isn't. And I—" He stopped, ashamed. Nora's voice was gentle. "And you?" Ethan stared at her. In the candlelight, her eyes looked like they held warmth and storms at the same time. "And I feel like a ghost," he confessed. "Like I'm living in a house that doesn't need me." Nora's fingers tapped the table slowly, as if holding back something. "I'm sorry," she said. "That's heavy to carry at 19. Ethan scoffed. "It's not heavy. It's normal." "Pain isn't normal," Nora corrected. "People just get used to it." Silence filled the room again. Rain. Candle. The soft hum of a world that didn't care. Then footsteps came from upstairs. Vivian appeared at the top of the staircase in a robe, her hair messy, her face tired in a way no makeup could hide. "Ethan?" Vivian called down softly. "Nora? What's going on?" "The power's out," Nora replied. Vivian sighed like even electricity had joined the list of things that abandoned her. She descended slowly. Up close, Ethan noticed the dark circles under her eyes. Vivian was young, but loneliness aged her. Vivian offered Ethan a small smile. "You okay?" Ethan nodded quickly. "Yes." Vivian's eyes flicked between him and Nora. Then she tried to lighten the mood. "Of course your father isn't here when the generator dies," she murmured. Nora forced a small laugh. Ethan didn't, because in Ethan's heart, something bitter rose. Richard always missed the important moments, the hard moments, the moments that made a family real. Vivian leaned on the counter. "I'll check the candles." "We'll manage." Nora nodded. "I'll help." As Nora stood, her hand brushed Ethan's shoulder. It was brief, accidental, but Ethan's entire body reacted like lightning had touched him. He stepped back quickly, hiding it, but Nora noticed. Her eyes widened slightly. Then she looked away. Ethan held his breath. Vivian walked toward the hallway and stopped. She turned back suddenly and looked at Ethan with a softness that felt like sadness. "You know," Vivian said slowly, "when I married your father, I thought I was marrying a man who'd come home." Ethan's throat tightened. Vivian continued, quiet like she was talking to herself. "But I think I married a shadow with a paycheck." Nora lowered her eyes. Ethan looked away, ashamed of the rage building inside him. Vivian smiled weakly, like she revealed too much. "Good night, Ethan." "Good night," he whispered. Vivian went upstairs. Nora remained in the kitchen. For a moment, her eyes followed Vivian with deep sympathy. Then she looked at Ethan. "Don't let your anger become your character," Nora said. Ethan frowned. "What does that mean?" "It means," Nora said carefully, "when people starve you emotionally, you start craving anything that looks like love." Ethan's mouth opened, but no words came. Nora stepped closer. "Promise me something." Ethan stared. "What?" "Promise me," she said, voice low. "You won't destroy yourself looking for warmth." Ethan's heart beat so loudly he thought she could hear it. He wanted to answer, but he couldn't, because the truth was he already felt warmth, and it was standing right in front of him. Later, in his room, Ethan lay awake staring at the ceiling, hearing Nora's voice repeat in his mind. "People starve you emotionally, you start craving anything that looks like love." Ethan whispered to the dark, "But what if it is love?" And that was the moment the danger began. Over the next 2 weeks, Richard remained busy. Busy meant short calls, no visits, and money sent like apology notes. Ethan stopped expecting anything, but the house changed because Nora stayed. Vivian had asked her to remain longer, for support, she said, to help with stress, anxiety, insomnia. Nora was like a quiet lighthouse for Vivian. For Ethan, she became something worse. A reason to wake up, a reason to return home early, a reason his heart started lying to him. One afternoon, Ethan arrived home and heard laughter. It wasn't the fake polite laughter they used for guests. It was real. From the kitchen, he walked in and saw Nora teaching Vivian how to make pancakes. Vivian held a spatula awkwardly. Nora stood behind her, guiding her hands. "Not like that," Nora teased. "You're attacking the pancake." Vivian giggled. "It deserves it." Ethan froze. The scene looked like a family, like something he never had. Nora glanced at him and smiled. "Hey, Ethan." Ethan forced a calm face. "Hey." Vivian brightened. "You're home early." Ethan shrugged. "Nothing to do." Nora studied him like she knew he was lying. When Vivian left the room to grab syrup, Nora leaned close and lowered her voice. "You're doing it again." Ethan frowned. "Doing what?" "Walking around like you're carrying a hurricane," Nora said. Ethan scoffed. "I'm fine." Nora's eyes sharpened. "Ethan, fine is a word people use when they don't trust anyone with the truth." That struck deep. Vivian returned and the moment ended. But later that night, Ethan found Nora alone on the balcony. She stared into the night, like she was trying to read the darkness. "You always do that," Ethan said. Nora didn't turn. "Do what?" "Look like you're listening to something no one else can hear." Nora smiled faintly. "Maybe I am." Ethan walked closer. "What do you hear?" Nora finally turned. "People's pain." Ethan's jaw tightened. "Then you must hear mine." Nora's expression softened. "Yes." The air between them thickened. Ethan took a risk. "Do you ever feel lonely?" Nora laughed softly. "All the time." Ethan swallowed. "Then why do you stay here?" Nora glanced toward the upstairs window where Vivian slept. "Because Vivian needs someone," she said simply. Ethan's voice hardened. "What about me?" Nora's eyes widened. "Ethan!" He stepped closer. Too close. "What about me?" he repeated. Nora raised a hand like a boundary. "You're not alone. You have a future." Ethan scoffed bitterly. "A future doesn't hug you at night." Nora's jaw clenched. "Stop." Ethan's voice broke. "You don't get it." Nora snapped, louder than intended. "I do get it. That's why I'm stopping you." Silence. Nora breathed hard. Ethan stared at her like he'd been punched. Nora lowered her voice again. "If you keep looking at me like that, you'll make me the villain in your story." Ethan whispered, "You're not a villain." Nora's eyes filled with something dangerous. Emotion. "You're 19, she said, "and you're hurting. Don't mistake comfort for destiny." Ethan swallowed. "What if it's real?" Nora stared at him a long time. Then she whispered something that nearly shattered him. "If it was real, I'd run away before it ruined you. Ethan stood frozen, and then Vivian appeared at the balcony door, sleepy. Are you two okay? She asked. Nora instantly smiled. Yes, just talking. Vivian nodded, unaware of the storm. But that night, Ethan lay awake hearing Nora's words. If it was real, I'd run away. And Ethan thought, then I'll make it impossible for you to run. Richard came home unexpectedly on a Friday evening. No warning. His SUV rolled into the driveway like a king returning to his castle. Vivian panicked, rushing around like she'd been caught doing something wrong, though she hadn't. Ethan felt something else. Fear, because with Richard home, Nora might leave. At dinner, Richard barely looked at Ethan. He questioned Vivian like an employer. How's your health? He asked without warmth. Vivian forced a smile. Better. Richard glanced at Nora. Thanks for assisting. Nora nodded politely. Of course. Richard ate like the house was a hotel. Ethan watched him and felt rage boiling. After dinner, Vivian went upstairs to get Richard's suitcase ready. Richard took a call in his office. Nora stood in the kitchen, washing plates. Ethan approached slowly, heart pounding. Nora, he said. She glanced at him. Ethan, don't. I have to, he interrupted. Nora stopped washing. Ethan stepped closer and lowered his voice. I can't breathe when you act like I don't feel what I feel. Nora whispered urgently, not tonight. Ethan's voice shook. If I don't say it tonight, I'll explode. Nora turned fully toward him, eyes fierce. No, she said. Ethan's throat burned. Yes. Nora's voice softened, begging. Please. Ethan's eyes watered. I love you, he said. The words fell like a gunshot. Nora's face went pale. She stepped back as if he'd physically pushed her. Ethan continued, breath shaking. I know it's wrong timing. I know people will judge. But it's real. You're the only person who makes this house feel alive. Nora's eyes filled with emotion. She whispered, Ethan. He reached for her hand. She pulled away. No, she said, voice cracking. No, I won't let you do this. Ethan snapped. Why? Because of my father? He isn't even a husband. He's a ghost. Nora hissed, stop. Ethan's voice rose. Vivian is alone. I'm alone. And you. Nora grabbed his shoulders, shaking him slightly. You're not in love, she said harshly. You're starving. Ethan flinched. Nora's voice softened again, tears spilling. And I refuse, she whispered, to become the thing you use to fill the hole your father made. Ethan stood trembling. So what, you feel nothing? Nora looked at him like it pained her to answer. I feel too much, she admitted. That's why this can't happen. Then, a voice behind them. Cold. What can't happen? They both turned. Vivian stood in the doorway, eyes wide, trembling. Behind her, Richard was there too, phone in hand, face unreadable. The house went silent. Ethan felt his blood drain. Vivian looked at Ethan like her heart was breaking in slow motion. Ethan, she whispered, what did you say? Richard's voice was dangerous. Answer her. Ethan's mouth opened. No words came. Richard stepped forward, eyes locked on Nora. And you, Richard said quietly, were you going to answer him? Nora shook her head quickly. No, I was stopping him. Vivian's breath broke. Ethan finally spoke, voice shattered. I didn't mean to hurt you. Vivian whispered, but you did. And at that moment, the generator outside kicked back on. The lights returned. But the house had never felt darker. The next morning, Vivian didn't cry. That was what terrified Ethan most. She moved through the house quietly, like a person whose soul had stepped out. Richard became fury in a suit. He cornered Ethan in the living room. You embarrass me, Richard hissed. Ethan laughed bitterly. That's what you care about? Your embarrassment. Richard's eyes narrowed. You cross a line. Ethan stepped closer, voice shaking. You built a line and then disappeared. Richard's face hardened. I provided. Ethan snapped. You paid for loneliness. Richard raised his hand like he might slap him. Vivian appeared instantly. Stop. Richard froze. Vivian looked at Ethan, voice calm but painful. Ethan, she said softly, I love you like a son. Ethan's eyes flooded. I'm sorry. Vivian nodded. I know you are. Then she turned to Nora. And you, Vivian whispered, thank you for not letting this go further. Nora's tears fell. I didn't want to destroy your home. Vivian's voice cracked. My home was already lonely. You just exposed it. Richard scoffed. So now I'm the villain? Vivian looked at him with quiet disgust. You were never present enough to be anything else. That silence punched Richard. Vivian turned back to Ethan. You need to leave, she said gently. Not because I hate you, but because you need to grow away from this. Ethan nodded slowly, devastated. Okay. Nora approached Ethan later by the front door as he packed. She held a small envelope. This is for you, she said. Ethan took it with trembling hands. What is it? A letter, she said, for when you think you miss me. Ethan swallowed. I do miss you. Nora's eyes softened. You miss what you thought I could fix. Ethan whispered, You don't think it was love? Nora paused. Then she answered honestly. It was love. Ethan's heart leaped. Nora continued before he could hope too much. But love that destroys isn't love worth having. Ethan cried silently. Nora touched his cheek briefly, one last warmth. Be a man, she whispered. Not by what you take, but by what you refuse to take. Ethan nodded. He left. Months later, Ethan wrote in his journal, I mistook hunger for love, and it almost made me selfish. But real love isn't possession, it's protection. And somewhere in the quiet mansion, Vivian finally stopped waiting for Richard to become a husband, because some absences are not accidents. They are choices. Thanks for watching. Please don't forget to subscribe, like, and share. Thank you.